We are proceeding to the fourth session for the day. Founder stories, books and writers who influenced and shaped their journey. In this session, we will be having Ms. Amritha Mani. Ms. Amritha Mani is the founder of Amylo, a sustainable packaging company creating eco-friendly alternatives to single-use plastic. An entrepreneur with a mission, she blends innovation and environmental consciousness to build greener supply chains. I request her to kindly join me on stage. Moving on to our next speaker, Mr. Swaroop Madhavan. He's the founder of Parentof, an AI-based cognitive intelligence platform that helps parents and educators understand children's unique abilities. His work combines technology and behavioral science to nurture future-ready kids. And yes, may I up next invite Mr. Vinay Prashant, who is the co-founder of the Mala Art Merchandise, a social enterprise supporting traditional artisans and sustainable art forms. His initiative connects contemporary markets with grassroots craft, empowering artisan communities. And yes, may I now invite Ms. Shrabonti Bagchi. She's a senior journalist who writes on business, culture, and society for the Mint. With a career spanning leading publications, she brings a nuanced perspective on India's evolving business and cultural landscape. Due to unforeseen circumstances, we could not have Mr. Shashi Kumar with us, but we definitely have an insightful panel right here. And yes, over to the panel.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for being here. I think quite a good crowd for a Saturday morning, irrespective of what Mr. Rao might have said about the turnout. Thank you all for being here and Mr. Rao as well for taking time out to be here today. Our panel is a very we'll just be talking about books essentially, books and writers that have inspired startup founders. And like how important it is to have these narratives in your journey as you are, building your companies. Are there certain narratives and stories that you use as inspiration or as a building block or a framework for what you're trying to do with your own companies? So, let's begin the session by talking about probably, a couple of books that have inspired you, influenced you, given you a sort of new way of thinking. We'll start with you, Swaroop, and then...
Check. Yeah, thanks. Just a quick introduction. Swaroop Madhavan, run a company called Parentof. We solve ADHD, attention deficit disorder, using AI. Now, if your mind got thinking, I'll tell you what got me thinking, right? Around 2015, I came across a statistic that kind of rattled me. 15% of kids in US were diagnosed with ADHD. Okay. Now, with the world of instant gratification, where our children are growing up, like my son, he does not know what a remote is. He's used to Alexa. Okay, that's how rapid the shifts are today. Now, one of the statistics that also alarmed was in the last 2.5 decades, attention span had reduced, and also the children's learning outcome in 85 countries has reduced by 70%. Humankind is going through cognitive decline. Now, that's what worries me. And now add to AI, right? Now, this is exactly when we studied the problem. And one of the books that kind of, was an eye-opener for me was a book by Ray Kurzweil. He's the inventor of speech to text. He has about 21 plus, honorary doctorates, the National Medal of Honor for Technology, awarded by 3+ US presidents before. He has spent 61 years in AI world. All right. Now, one of the books, what he wrote was Singularity is Near. Okay. Which is a game changer in the way we look at it, which is basically where he predicts by 2030 that our neocortex in the brain where most of our thinking happens, will be connected to a computer. which already a lot of companies from
Running.
Neuralink, so many companies are there, which are working on that. And this is reality because now my company, we are headquartered in Chicago, Illinois, and we have an R&D center in Bangalore. And I'm seeing some of the works and it's unbelievable. What if I tell you in the next about 10 to 15 years, your phones are going to disappear? There is going to be a chip. You want to call your mom, you just have to think, you don't even have to talk. And the phone dials. Your mom's speaking with you. This sounds straight out of a fiction, but trust me, where AI is headed is that intriguing and scary. I understand both sides of the debate that exists, right? But I think that kind of led us, for me, it was a game changer when I read this in 2015 and embarked on the AI. And for someone who came from a non-tech world, I built my first company in the learning and development services, exited it successfully. I thought of taking the tech, and in 10 years, I think today, one of the key problems we are solving with digital therapeutics is the key, outcome of that book, if I were to say, kind of opened my mind to, adopt AI. Several other books, but I think I'll go through the discussions as we go on. Thank you.
Yeah. I also have questions about how fiction might have influenced your thinking in any way. But I'll ask Amritha to talk about the books that have influenced her, and in specificity, specifically any book that has, like how Swaroop was talking about, books that have maybe, it doesn't always have to be a direct link to what you're doing, but has given you a sort of framework to think around what you do.
Press. I can be looking at that. So first of all, hello to everyone. I must qualify and say I'm mostly an introvert. Hardly find me. You'll hardly find me at these kind of events. But I was just inspired. Benedict reached out, and I just thought it's a great kind of event, a very niche event, but something that is needed to set the narrative for entrepreneurship, for business growth in a place like Bangalore. So here I am. And let me talk about the fiction side of it. So as an entrepreneur, one of the biggest challenges we face is, or rather the biggest resource we have is our mind and our spirit, right? There are often days when cash flow is out, payroll is at risk, right? And then you are scrambling to get across. On those days, there is nothing with you but your mind and your spirit.
Very
right?
true.
Yeah. So keeping those two strong is where the entrepreneur wins. And for the mind part, definitely it's books that help you come up with frameworks and structures. So I'm also a second-time entrepreneur in a way, and my first entrepreneurship attempt did not go well. And then I had you take a step back and understand what went wrong. And that's the point at which this book made such a big impact on me. It's the title is Autobiography of a Yogi by Yogananda Paramahamsa. I'm sure many of you would have come across that book in your journey of life, right? And it's his own story of how from childhood he has chosen spirituality, and against odds, how he has attuned his practice and been able to achieve a level over time. And I think it's a great book for anyone who is working on themselves, to improve your own self. It's a great book. And in any time of confusion in your journey, it's a great book to refer to.
Thank you so much, Amrita. Prashant, we were connecting before the session and you mentioned the writings of Jiddu Krishnamurti. Would you like to tell us a little bit about how that has impacted you?
Good. Yeah, so good afternoon to everyone. This is Vinay. A bit about what I do. I run a social impact organization working with rural and tribal artisans across India. So we are called Tamala, and we are also part of the BBLF event. I was lucky to study in a Krishnamurti school. So I think, and I was very, very lucky and privileged to actually meet Jiddu Krishnamurti himself and also ask a few questions. So that was in the year 1984, and I was 11-year-old, and we had a school interaction with him. He had come back to India, and we didn't know at that time that he was critically ill and he was about to die. But we didn't know, and he was carrying himself normally and conducting all these question answer sessions as he would do, because for him that was his way of living, and it was just amazing. And I think that session opened up a lot of things for me, where he was questioning the question itself.
Right.
So he starts by asking, why do we question? And it just gets you thinking on so many levels. I think for entrepreneurs, after that I did some speed reading of about 25-30 Krishnamurti books in the library, because it kind of really opened up a lot of things for me. For entrepreneurs, I would say what Jiddu Krishnamurti reaches out is when he's his readings make you question your current set of beliefs, whether it is religious beliefs, political beliefs, academic learnings, anything.
Yes.
And then that's when you can truly be creative.
Yeah. He breaks
That's why
down those preconceived, like the whole philosophy is about breaking down certain preconceived ideas, right?
Every preconceived.
Right. Yeah.
It's about keeping your mind open and blank and being receptive, and it's not easy because we are so conditioned. Even innovations are based on preconditions.
Correct.
So true creativity goes beyond that. And that's, I think, one of the biggest takeaways for me has been, or is a continual journey. I mean, there's no beginning and there's no end to this thought.
Right. Which is why his philosophy has been so useful in education, for instance, right? And I think for entrepreneurs in the education space, that would be something to look at. Like, although, I guess EdTech is very structured, but first you need to know how to sort of, you also need to know that the rules can be broken and things can be built up from the ground up. Right. Swaroop, coming back to you, you spoke about, books that have kind of opened your mind. I actually want to ask you that, like, since you work in the field of AI, science fiction, and I'm a big science fiction reader. Not like big, but yeah, I read a fair amount of science fiction. So, how do you think that science fiction is impacting the technology of today? Like, do you see in your experience as you meet entrepreneurs and founders who are working in the field of like the really emerging tech, like what you were talking about, right? Do they talk about, how they had read a certain book, maybe like Asimov or anything, which opened their mind? And in your case also, is there any science fiction book that has
I'll
impacted
get to
you?
this question. Thanks for this. Right now, think about this. If let's say we date back ourselves fictionally 200 years ago, okay, we were sitting here on a rock having this conversation. And if I were to tell you there is a cricket match happening in London and we can watch it live, would you believe? I think the power of, and here I have a very philosophical book that helps me.
Okay.
The Power of Subconscious Mind by Swami Vivekananda.
Right. Yeah.
It goes with a very key premise, and this I read it. I'm Krishnite myself. Okay, got initiated very early when I was in my school. The book gets to the theme that everything you want to discover is within yourself. Sometimes all you need is to be quiet, actually go through a self-discovery. I think stemming back, everything that's happening today has been an imagination of what was called fiction is what's become reality. Think about what Star Trek did and what AI is doing today, right? It's no longer a fiction, it's reality. Okay. So I do believe fictions open up to a future that you haven't walked. And gradually that kind of merges into reality over a period of time. Yeah.
But do tech founders actually get influenced by like reading fiction, like a science fiction novel, and think like, this is what I want to build?
I definitely see. So for me, it was always that I think I was a curious kid in a candy shop, all right? If I were to put it in one line for you, I was just curious about everything there was. What could this be? I think it's that curiosity that led me to do things that people hadn't done before, venture into paths of the unknown. And of course, when you end up doing things you haven't done before, between fiction and reality exists reality in terms of the emotional turmoil that also goes through the creation zone. So I think, yeah, it's been that journey for me. Yeah.
Amrita, when we were connecting before the session, I asked you to tell me a little bit about, books that have influenced you. The other book that you mentioned was Shoe Dog by Phil Knight. And I meet quite a few founders, and invariably, I think 90% of them mention that book. Could you tell me a little bit about why that book is so popular among founders? Like, what is it about the, Phil Knight's writing or what he talks about that seems to be such a vast influence?
I think oftentimes once the entrepreneur succeeds, oftentimes it's after the entrepreneur succeeds that the books are written. So you only see a second half of the entrepreneur. You honestly don't see the early struggle. And I think in terms of brutal honesty of how you struggle in your early bootstrap days, I think this is one of the best recorded books, and it's amazingly inspirational. The kind of every single problem that he's faced and how he's come out of it, it's very well laid out, and it's brilliant from that perspective. It shows you a side which most other books don't.
Right, yeah. Any other books that have done that for you? Like, just stories about entrepreneurs.
So I would say there is this inspirational stream of books. Then there is also practical books, right? So one of them is a book called Built to Last by Jim Collins. So as you are building something, you have to choose which path will I take, right? And then for that, you need to sit and think and choose something. So from that perspective, I started first working as a CXO for startups on a paid basis before I became an entrepreneur. So even from that stage, this is a book that has really shaped me. The book tells you the difference very succinctly, if I put it. It tells you that culture beats KPI every day. That if you can instill a thought process, a discipline, and a people-based system in your company, then it's built to last. So it's those kind of books also make a difference from a practical perspective.
So, Vinay, tell me, when you spoke about how you got introduced to philosophy in a way, with the Jiddu Krishnamurthy's books. Did that lead you into a bigger exploration of philosophy on the whole? Has there been any impact of that kind of reading on your work?
It's not just the reading of Krishnamurti. If you're lucky to study in a school which belongs to the Krishnamurti group, or they call it KFI, Krishnamurti Foundation, it's a whole way of life. So when there are creepers and trees and grass growing in the garden, there is no manicuring of the garden. They let the nature be. You understand that you are one small, being in this universe. So there are so many other aspects that lead to this thought. Our teachers were weavers, actually. So we had physics, chemistry, maths, as all other schools did, and science and English and all the other history and civics. And we also had weaving as a class. We had carpentry as a class. And I had, traditional artisans who were teaching us and grading us. So my final exam was weaving a towel. Okay, so now that kind of hands-on experience, when you do, you realize that there is much more. That academics is one part of whatever we are doing. It is a whole game of life, and if nature is around you, and then you are just one part. No, the snakes are allowed to roam free in that campus, whereas any other school would do a hue and cry if there's a cobra there in the middle of the campus, and then, start clicking photos, call the, rescue person, not and the snake.
Skill, yeah.
Yeah. So, but the snakes,
Living with the environment and
yes,
knowing that you are also part of that large ecosystem and not like the ruler of that ecosystem,
Yes.
more superior than the other forms of life, right? So, Swaroop, I want to ask you actually, I mean, you did name books that were written by Indians, but in terms of Indian entrepreneurship, what are some of the kind of stories that you would like to hear? And I want to hear all your opinion on this. Do you find there's enough material about Indian entrepreneurs? Of course, everybody is listening to podcasts and making podcasts these days. But in terms of reading, what kind of stories of Indian entrepreneurship, whose stories would you like to hear?
Very interestingly, there are two kinds of successful entrepreneurs. If I were to put, this may be debatable again. I'm entering into a territory which is highly debatable. But one where profit has been the core part of your business, right? You have several entrepreneurs, rags to riches in India. But the second, this is my own observation that I've seen, be it in Europe and US compared to Indian entrepreneurs. In US, the narrative is global. The narrative is much larger. They live in a story. I think the word creates your world, the story creates your world, becomes real, right? There is a massive story to which billions of dollars flow. Once with what we do, but we lack storytelling. If you put it out this way, I think some of the most prudent innovations happen here. But the chance to explore, like I'll just give you a very simple thing, right? I was actually in discussion about 2 months ago in IIT Madras with the faculty, right? Now, you know how many patents they produce? And you know what happens with all those patents? They're guarded as secrets. There is so much innovation, people are scared somebody is going to take my idea. And I'm talking some of the topmost minds in this.
The whole idea of a patent is that you have it.
Exactly. Right? Commercializing that, taking that with a story, weaving that across. I feel that's a bridge that needs to come through. In the Indian entrepreneurship ecosystem, we need to tell stories. We need to be ready to give out. We can't just hold in. Probably it comes with a lot of colonization where survival is in our DNA.
Yeah.
Okay. But somewhere I feel that's a breakthrough that's required as a civilization in the entrepreneurship world for us to take on.
Yeah, we are a low trust society.
Correct.
And I think we need to build trust and be more generous about sharing our ideas. Amrita,
I'd like to share that I have come out of a system like that. So the bioplastic material we've developed was done in the labs of Indian Institute of Science and done with help from the professors and PhD students there. So yeah, the story is moving.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. Like the less gatekeeping there is, the better it is for the entire ecosystem, right?
Right. So I've been able to take their research, make it commercially viable, tell the story around it, and hopefully we are pre-commercialization now. We are pushing for commercialization. We are setting up our first factory. So hopefully, the story goes on.
Right.
That's excellent. Vinay, any thoughts on what kind of stories would you like to hear about Indian entrepreneurship? What kind of stories should be told, need to be told?
So I was very fortunate to work briefly with Dr. Saraswati, who's written this massive PhD. She did a thesis on effectuation and effectual thinking. And I was one of the facilitators for the program. We ran a program for entrepreneurs in Bangalore for a couple of years. So I was one of the facilitators. And in that, we kind of, said that, whatever you read in the media, I know you're a reporter, but I'm sorry.
Okay, no, please go.
Whatever you read in the media is outlier news, as she earlier said also. And it doesn't really show you the true story of an entrepreneur struggle. So we ran a test actually, if you want to be a startup founder. And it's perfectly fine to choose to work in an organization and earn a salary.
Right.
There is no shame in that. right? Because being an entrepreneur is very, very painful, and you have to be really, ready for that kind of a journey.
Right. No, so many untold stories there which need to be told. And yeah, thank you so much for all those ideas. I'm going to start working on them. This was just research, basically. Okay, can we have some questions?
The chatbot fiction, okay, all that one side. You've come across Genie 3?
No, sorry.
Okay, that's Google DeepMind, where actually you script inside like a game and the LLM takes over storytelling along with you. Okay, it would have been nice if you were already familiar, but anyway, this sums it up. It's still in development. Okay. I just wanted your reflection on basically because you were crisscrossing fiction, AI, a space that I do.
If Swami was there and you had asked this question, what would the response be? I think I'll go back to my roots and answer this question a bit different from technical answer. I see it this way. We always said Kalki avatar, right? And Kalki will come to take on Kali. The way I would put this narrative is this, sir. The God created the world birthed man, the man birthed AI. Okay? Now, for me, Kalki is Calc AI. Kali is Cal AI. Okay?
Wow.
See, AI is driven by data. There's nothing else. The data that you feed in, that's the good or bad. Okay? What you want the AI to do. Now, who trumps? Is AI bad? No. Okay? Can AI work creating stories? Can AI view movies? I mean, it's gone to VLMs today. From mere play, LLMs. I mean, you would have been playing with the Gemini banana that's been released, the Sari themes that's going around. I think the key question is this in AI, which ought to be solved yet. It's not yet solved. The AI of Kalki or the AI of Kali, right? What do you feed it? How do you train your data? What is the human control over the AI interpretations that happens? That's always going to be the key. I believe to take AI in the right direction, it needs to help civilization. Because I have seen AI today, most of the surgeries you go through laparoscopic are robotic surgeries. There is no longer a surgeon who is standing for 24, 48 hours, right? It's machine controlled, even be it in Anglo as much as what we speak. So will technology solve this? 100% yes. It's there to benefit us. But can there be a lot of destructions? Yes. So my way of viewing it is always with the lens of how much of morality can we bring in as much as possible. Yeah, but thanks a lot for that. Sorry. Yeah, please.
You run an AI-based cognitive intelligence platform, and in your starting message, you told that you use your product for issues like ADHD and other things. Nowadays, there is a lot of context building around that AI itself is the reason for cognitive decline, right? Where you have most of the students nowadays taking tests using AI, and at the click of a button, you have an answer ready-made. So there are a lot of authors who claim that AI itself is the reason behind the cognitive decline of students and most of the professionals nowadays. How is AI itself being used as a solution for the cognitive decline? So I want to understand that. Thanks.
You bought the Kali, now you want me to answer the Kalki. All right. Perfect. See, technology always has had this dual tone. Question, okay? I'll give you a very simple situation. You heard of this CAD software which architects use, right? Before CAD was invented, how architectures used to happen for buildings. So my grandfather comes from that line. So I've heard stories. 300 plus architects used to sit together in one room, everybody drawing a piece, and there would be a supervisor who would collect it all and align it. Now those 300 people disappeared and one CAD software took over. Now, just to give you a brief, right? Did that help? Did that not help is a secondary question. But I think your fundamental question of children going through an AI world, we can't stop it. Okay? They're growing up with it. You can control it. The question is to teach them a lot of skills that becomes important here. their impulse control, their self-regulation. So screen time is not a problem. Sorry, I didn't get your name. Mukul, screen time is not the problem. The problem is when it becomes excessive, without regulation, without impulse control as abilities, right? Nothing by default. Anger is a good emotion. You got to know how to show it too. Okay? So I don't believe there is anything just negative. It's about how you kind of take that discourse through. So children in the AI world, they will be much faster. Yes, a lot of creation will happen with AI for humankind. Internet did that for one generation. A generation before that kind of borrowed information from books. It was not always your self-discovery, right? You always borrowed intelligence. As a species, we've only grown, by borrowed intelligence, and shared intelligence is what's created the world we live in, right? And that's going to continue as an evolutionary theory. So my view of it is, while I completely stand for regulations, right, and that's going to be the key part of the next decade. The world is also, every country is working on it right now, without a question. But I think with students, there is a lot more other skills that are more important to teach them in the world of AI. Creativity cannot be forgotten, and I'm with you. We use AI to solve a bigger problem. Now, I'll tell you where we use AI. For the amount of ADHD issues that comes in today, there are not enough therapists to solve that problem. And it's not just ADHD. I mean, that's one use case I told you. But we have several use cases we do, right? And getting through a physical therapist is expensive and hard, and it's not outcome or evidenced. Like, we work with Nimhans in India, just to give you a flavor of the thought. And our AI has been certified through several clinical processes there. Because when you last mile connectivity, right? Somebody who is in Davangere today who has an issue, can't find a therapist, what do? How do you get it across, right? And this is exactly where we come in. Again, not to do the human work, but to facilitate that discovery through digital therapeutics. But yeah, thanks for that question.
Thank you. Questions also the state podcast actually. All science was literacy rate podcast, breaks down the location. So we were talking about chatbots essentially. We did talk about this whole therapy language, but there's also danger to AI misleading
Correct.
children or whoever is going in for AI therapy. Of course, it pays for, if you don't have any answer at all in this. But yeah, but then always this caveats, right?
Absolutely. So even how we've kind of bridged it is there is always a coach. Now, what AI has done is take off the experience. So let me explain. For you to deal with a very effective therapist today, you require experience, correct? Now, there are very few people who are really experienced. Talk about ADHD, right? Now, bridging that experience is wisdom. There is knowledge and there is wisdom, right? The wisdom part is where it needs to identify pattern. You need to know what kind of therapy to drive, what kind of play to do. You need to come up with it. You need to have enough parameters to get to that decision. I think that's where AI comes in handy. Not really to do the therapy. We don't do that. We do it with the coach, human involved, right? It gets assisted. Yeah.
First, leadership of AI and the importance of regulations and much more. I'm sure this section finds us according to the actual books that we have read and the lessons learned. I take this moment to request Mr. Shrabonti, the co-founder of Bangalore Business Literature Festival, to kindly join me on stage. Yeah. Thank you. Yes, everybody, can we please finish all the speakers right here? A special thanks to our gifting partners in this moment. Abhishek Alka Organic and Organic. Thank you so much.